The world of digital marketing moves at a dizzying speed. Strategies, budgets, tactics, buzzwords. How can we even begin to distinguish the signal from the noise, the good moves from the bad? Take it from the team that's tripped as much as we've triumphed. We're putting our best moves in the spotlight and spilling every secret to give you step-by-step instructions to steal for your own success and digitally scale your business. This is Marketing Moves.
Welcome back to Marketing Moves. This is Madison Riddell, president of VividFront, hopping into the hostess seat for a minute. Today, I want to demystify the optics of running a consumer brand. Us marketers have a job to make the brand flawless from the outside, but behind every successful consumer product is an operator balancing inventory, retail partnerships, margins, product development, strategic investments, forecasting, and about 1,000 other decisions that the consumers never see. Now, imagine making those decisions every day across 7 brands. Today's guest lives that reality. I'm joined by Derek Naim, Chief Operating Officer of Chagrinovations, a consumer products company that builds and scales a portfolio of consumer brands sold through some of North America's largest retailers. In this episode, we're pulling back the curtain on what it really takes to grow consumer brands from the inside, from launching new products and managing multiple P&Ls, to balancing retail with e-commerce and leading the people who run it behind the scenes. Derek, welcome to Marketing Moves.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Before we get started, following that quick intro, I have to share that Derek and I both went to the same college, John Carroll University, locally.
The Harvard of the Midwest,
yes.
Some people would say.
Go Streaks. We also graduated from the same class. Derek played football with my now husband, so we have some similar roots, kids around the same age. So I think it'll be an extra fun conversation, and I'm really happy to have you.
I'm sure there's some people that saw us on the streets of Warrensville back in the day that are a little shocked that we're sitting here. But
yeah,
no.
These two together, all polished, blazer and polo and all.
Could be a little dangerous. Well, thanks
sure.
for having me.
Yes, if you have a JCU story of Derek or I, leave it in the comments.
Yeah. No, please don't.
Awesome. So like we start every episode, I'd love for you to give some background on the company that you're currently the Chief Operating Officer of, Chagrinovations. Tell us a little bit about what the company does and the goals of your business.
Yeah, so Chagrinovations kind of has an interesting business model. And to be honest, it necessarily wasn't the business model we set out when we were starting the company. A little bit of background, the company was founded by really 2 guys named Curtis Taylor, who owns a product design firm out in Chagrin Falls called Process 4.
Okay.
And really what Curtis had spent his career doing over the last 30 years is developing consumer products for major brands. And so basically his company would come in and, for example, Purina, hey, we need innovations in cat litter. And his company would come in and say, hey, here's some ideas and some concepts that you can then go take to market.
Okay, wow, yeah.
So he spent his entire career with his company at Process 4 coming up with new innovative ideas. And it got to the point where he had more ideas than his partners could take to market. And so they had the idea of forming Chagrinovations. And so he partnered with Tony DiCarlo, who had spent a lot of years in the consumer product space, has had his own consumer products company, to really form an entity that can then take these ideas to market. And so that's kind of what Chagrinovations set out to do, was to say, hey, we've got these ideas. How do we commercialize them, get them up on Amazon, and sell them into the market?
Wow, I don't even know that I knew the background of that story, and that makes perfect sense. So for people who are less familiar with the business model, are you all acquiring existing brands and then innovating them with new ideas? Is every brand that you launch from the ground up? Talk us through what that process looks like, what you guys own versus maybe what you don't.
Yeah, so it's really a lot of development. And the unique thing is I joined Chagrinovations in February of 2020. So I always joke to say there's no better time to quit a good job and join a company that has no revenue than right before a global pandemic.
Perfect.
But honestly, that kind of helped shape our strategy as a company today for a lot of reasons, really, because during that time, most retailers they were so focused on the products that they were out of stock of because there were so many supply issues during the pandemic. And we started just reaching out to our retail partners and saying, hey, we've got product design and development expertise. We have a global sourcing team. Our ownership group owns manufacturing. How can we help you get product on the shelf where you can't have it? So all of a sudden it went from, hey, we've got some cool innovations we want to sell you, to, hey, you've got problems. How can we help you solve them? Okay. And that's what we've built our company off of, is sitting down with the leading retailers across North America and more just asking questions and saying, hey, what are the problems you're having with your existing supply chain? Where do you need innovation? And then taking that insight and then building our own brands off of it. So it's led us in a lot of different categories and avenues, but it's really focused around, hey, there's a problem and a need, and that insight's coming directly from our retail partners. And one of the things that we found too is if one retailer is having a problem, the odds are the rest of the market's having that problem. So then we can be that solution provider across the market.
I think that's genius. The simplest way to scale. Somebody has a problem, you have the solution. Right. So I love that model. You mentioned you guys are in a lot of different categories, which has to be fun to manage. Can you talk us through the categories you're in today?
Yeah, so we have really 7 brands. One's kind of a sub-brand, but this will be a test to see if I can rattle these off on the first try. The first brand we really have is Formit, which is a stationary hardware brand. And then we have a household cleaning brand and organization called Tidy Ups. We have a patented ice alternative brand and ice product called Chills. We have a range of pet products called Duke & Boots, and a sporting goods brand called Vortex. And then our latest brand is a new supplement sports type brand called TRGT.
And as you're looking across this portfolio of brands and your unique role on the operations side, how are you deciding where resources flow? When you're thinking about not just one P&L, but several, is it squeaky wheel gets the grease? Is there a different strategy? Are there certain performance metrics you're looking towards? How do you choose where to invest?
It's a great question, and because we talk about it every single day. And I think there's internal conversation daily about where we spend our time, energy, and resources. And I think it goes back to our founder, Tony. He has this concept of big rocks and what is the biggest priorities and the biggest opportunities, and let's spend our time in there. And it goes back to this analogy of someone has a silo and they have big rocks, pebbles, sand, and water. Mm-hmm. And if you put the pebbles and the sand and the water in first, there won't be room for the big rocks. But if you put the big rocks in first and slowly move down the priority list, all of those things will quickly fall into place. Right. And so that's kind of what we do, is we look at each opportunity as like, okay, how big is the opportunity? How big is the need in the market for an opportunity like that, and make those decisions accordingly. But it's not always an easy process, and it's leaning on the team to kind of say, hey, here's where we believe, and taking a lot of people's insights and going from there.
The fact that you can trust the instincts of the internal team to all contribute to those decisions, I think is really powerful. And I've seen that firsthand with you guys and how you operate. When you started in 2020, how many of these brands today were part of the portfolio?
So it was relatively limited. It was like Duke & Boots was really our key brand. Actually, when I left my job at Henkel, they're like, what are you leaving to go sell? And the only item that I knew was a litter scoop. And so some of the people kind of jokingly call me Scoops, which is kind of funny to see kind of where the business has developed from there. And then we had some other concepts that weren't really into brands. And I give our team a lot of credit, because transparently, in the early days of the business, we were a product company. Mm-hmm. Hey, we're solving this product need. And the team's done such a great job over the last few years of bringing those products that were solving people's problems and turning them into meaningful brands in the retail space.
Definitely gives you guys an edge. And I know that through that process, your primary focus area has typically been brick and mortar retail. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned that the retailers themselves inform a lot of the strategies you guys are putting together or the gaps that you're trying to fill. Can you explain why the emphasis has been retail, how e-commerce is starting to play a role, and how you're bridging those two pieces?
Yeah, so it's very interesting, and I think a lot of it goes back to some of the relationships that our leadership has. Dan Perella, our CEO, is probably one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to brick and mortar retail that I've ever met. And so we just started with where our relationships were. And previously at Henkel, we had developed some relationships. And so we kind of started there. And it's crazy, even in a world that's growing as fast as it is in e-com, almost 70% or more than 70% of transactions still occur in a brick and mortar retail store. Mm-hmm. Now that's shrinking year over year, and that makes more of the omni-channel approach more impactful and meaningful. But we figured, okay, let's start where our relationships are at. Let's start where still a majority of the volume is, and then grow from there.
And what do you think makes a retail brand, specifically a retail first strategy? What do you think makes a category leader versus a brand that fizzles?
That's a great question. I think, one, creating a brand that solves a problem at the retailers is key, because you're not just saying, hey, I've got this good idea that's sold online before. If you can really validate an item through retail POS, you can really take that across any channel. And so getting some insights, whether it be a small store test from some of our retail partners, the insights you're able to gather are so unique. And then we can take that and kind of push that out across our omni-channel presence.
I love that. I think it would be helpful for folks that are listening, primarily marketers, some operators, people who kind of straddle both worlds in smaller businesses, like many of us do, to understand. You just said that you're learning a lot from kind of the retail metrics and how things are performing in a physical space. Which key metrics can someone look to inform a new or growing e-commerce business out of an existing retail presence, in your opinion?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And I think the caveat to that is the feedback goes both ways.
Right.
Like, I think from an e-com side of things, picking and choosing, hey, velocity at a retail shelf. If you're able to generate that velocity, how can we leverage that on e-com? And also, how can we build a presence in e-com that then goes back and drives that velocity? And the interesting thing is, I use the term omni-channel, which I'm sure most people are familiar with, but it's a term we're hearing more and more in retail today. And that kind of goes back the other way, that nowadays retailers are looking to, before they put your item on the shelf, what is your presence on Amazon? What is your presence on your e-com site? How many reviews do you have? What's the feedback? And back in the day, they used to validate product at retail with a store test. Nowadays, they're looking towards your e-com reviews, your e-com sales, your Amazon sales as that validation to say, hey, this product deserves to go on my shelf. So it works both ways. And as we're continuing to move forward, it's starting to lean more and more to, hey, validate this product in the e-com space first, and then leverage that back to brick and mortar, and then we'll put that item in.
Definitely. I think that's a great transition, because our work that we're doing at VividFront is primarily e-commerce focused for consumer brands. And we're really used to that second flow that you just described, which is client comes to us with an established e-commerce brand or something new. They want to grow e-commerce success so that they can prove it out, and then step into brick and mortar retail is typically our flow. So with you guys, it's been the opposite. We've partnered on a couple of different brands together over the years. And I think it's been really interesting and transformative to the strategy to think about it in a different chicken and egg order, and also sometimes in parallel, which is what we're doing with the current brand. So I thought we could deep dive into TRGT, which was one of the brands you mentioned. And I'll have you describe the brand and the product and why you guys chose to invest in this particular project. But from VividFront's vantage point, we partnered to launch this brand together, actually, in early 2026. And I think that the retail strategy and the e-commerce strategy have really gone entirely hand in hand in parallel, which is unique. So I'd love to hear your perspective on all of that, and first have you introduce us to the brand.
Yeah, so a little bit of the backstory about TRGT. We had a patented ice alternative product that we were trying to get our Chills brand. We were trying to get some endorsements, whether it be athlete, celebrity endorsements. And we just started reaching out to different agents, celebrities, to see if they would be willing to endorse the product. And we just so happened to get in touch with Hambrick Sports, which is an agency that represents a lot of leading golfers like Scottie Scheffler, Brooks Koepka, Dustin Johnson, a lot of big golfers in that space. And we were trying to see if they had any golfers that would have interest in our Chills ice wrap, and met one of the agents, Walker Huddy, down at the Memorial Tournament in Columbus last June. And as we were walking and talking, we were explaining our business model, and hey, we solve problems for retailers and we help commercialize ideas and bring them to market. And he's like, it's funny you mentioned that. I represent this golfer named Vince Whaley. And Vince has played on the PGA Tour since 2019, but he's a really smart guy. He went to Georgia Tech, and he has this idea. And really what he found is 90% of golfers on the PGA Tour are supplementing nicotine in some way. And that's a rough statistic, but that was something that he had noticed. And what he found is these guys were more looking for the oral fixation of having something in their mouth while they're out on the golf course versus the nicotine. But because a nicotine pouch was the only thing that they had, they're popping these pouches in, sometimes 10 to 15 of them over the course of a day. And he's like, well, what if we can find a way to deliver clean ingredients through that pouch? So that way it solves that oral fixation, all while not putting nicotine into your body. Mm-hmm. And so he shared this with me, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea, because 3 years ago, no one had heard what Zyn was. And now you look everywhere.
Every pocket's got a tin.
Every pocket's got a tin. They're everywhere.
Every wife sees them on their nightstand.
That is
been there, done that.
That is correct. Yes, and every wife wants them off the nightstand.
Yes, exactly.
So we spent a lot of time with him, and we ended up coming up with a kind of a model that allowed Vince to have ownership in the brand and allowed us to really commercialize it. And really the kind of unique thing about TRGT is it's supplements delivered through a pouch mechanism. And really the benefit of that is the convenience factor. Mm-hmm. It's easy to pop in, easy to carry. You're at the gym, you're working out, you need something, you just pull instead of going and mixing a drink or shaking something up, you can just pull it out of the can, put it in your mouth, and take the supplement via that pouch mechanism. Right. And the other unique thing is there had been a couple of alternatives in the market, but most of them were really focused to nicotine. But most of them had been focused on caffeine. And one of the pieces of feedback that Vince gave is like, yes, I don't want nicotine, but I also don't want to put in caffeine at 4 o'clock in the afternoon too. And so one of the real, I think, well thought through things about his idea is TRGT covers 5 functions that fit across the course of the day. So everything from energy, focus, electrolyte, recovery, and sleep. So that way we can meet that consumer at whatever portion of the day they're looking for that help. And so that's something that's really differentiated the brand, is just the ability to spread across those 5 different functions.
Totally agree. This was the first time that I heard you say you had that first meeting with Walker Huddy last June. Mm-hmm. That is an insanely quick timeline.
Yes.
We launched to market in January.
That's
e-commerce, full press. So talk to us about that runway. I don't know that I've come across any brands with as sophisticated of infrastructure that we've been able to maintain on both sides in such a short window, from what seems like kind of a serendipitous, accidental conversation to a completely developed product in market in 6 months. Yeah. Roughly. So what does that look like for you guys? What was that process?
It just speaks to the strength of our team and the experience that we have, from leadership of Tony and Dan really diving into, okay, what's the compliance? What's the regulatory? What testing labs do we need to go through to, okay, stabilizing a supply chain that can not only handle our launch, but long-term can support all of retail across North America. It was just the perfect example of how blessed we've been to be surrounded by such great people, from a marketing effort and a partnership with VividFront to put together what does this brand look like and how are we going to get this out there, to an operational standpoint. How are we going to service direct-to-consumer orders, but at the same time be able to put these in displays to service our convenience store customers. It was truly just a great example of, I think, what makes Chagrinovations kind of unique is we have a lot of experience, and Dan and Tony, as I mentioned, are 2 of the greatest experts in this category that I could ever lean on. And I've learned so much from them.
Us too.
Yeah. But at the same time, we have that expertise, but we're also not a massive entity. And so we put some of the other priorities to the side and said, hey, this is a big opportunity. How do we make this happen quickly? Because there's certain opportunities where the window's only open for so much time.
Totally.
And this is a category that we see is going to grow quickly. And the window's open, and so now we have to put all of our time, energy, and resources into capitalizing on that. So,
and I've definitely seen you guys do that.
Yes.
You let me know if you're comfortable with me sharing like the intricacies of our partnership.
Yeah.
But I think you're speaking to, hey, there's only so much cash to go around and invest in. And how do we motivate people and find the right partners and launch? And obviously that's a huge part of maintaining speed and quality at the same time, is like having the right partners and figuring out where you can find efficiencies with cash flow. So the model that we have together, Chagrinovations and VividFront for TRGT, is a revenue share partnership. Mm-hmm. So the benefit for Chagrinovations was that there was little to no upfront expense when compared to the six-figure price tag of launching a brand of this caliber with creative assets and CGI and a website and a marketing strategy, paid media mix, 10 team members, etc. So pretty much all of that was waived as part of the partnership investment. And VividFront's upside is the opportunity to make a percentage of the top line sales that come through the e-commerce store specifically. So for us, the model, and we've done it several times with other brands, but for us, it's really a needle in the haystack opportunity. It's not something we'll do with every brand. It's typically once in a couple of years we'll entertain this route. The math only works if it works. And a lot of times we'll map out a flywheel and it doesn't. But with this particular brand, it did. It put VividFront in a position to say, hey, we can invest for a couple of years and bleed a little bit on our profit, but we know the upside will be so great for both teams. And we forecasted all of that out together. And I think that's really special. And I think that being able to, as a consumer brand, create those partnerships only happens if you have a really special team, like you said. So I just wanted to commend you guys for that and also share that we took a bet on TRGT too, because the mechanics were there, the math was there, the opportunity was there, the market was there, and so was the unique value prop. And those are things that are really critical outside of what the AOV will be and all of those kind of key metrics.
You hit the nail right on the head. And I think that's the key to success in a lot of areas is just being in lockstep every step of the way with all of your partners. And I think that's an approach we've taken across every aspect of our business with our warehousing partners, our suppliers and manufacturers, with our customers even, is, hey, we're going to be open book, we're going to be honest, and just say, hey, let's arm in arm, we're in this together, and there's going to be highs and there's going to be lows. But when you put a strategy in place that people win together and people lose together, it starts to feel like a family. And there's been ups and downs of launching a new brand, but when you're in lockstep of, hey, we all have the same end goal in mind, we can sit across the table from each other and say, here's what's working, here's what's not working, and know that both parties have the ultimate end goal in mind. It's a refreshing way and a way we really like to conduct business.
Love that.
This episode is brought to you by TRGT. The people listening to this show are executives, operators, and strategists. And if you're anything like us, operating at 100% isn't optional. It's the baseline. So here's the problem. Most of what we reach for to stay focused leaves us jittery or crashing. Coffees, energy drinks, other vices. TRGT is tackling this head-on with a supplement line purpose-built for long meetings, travel days, and back-to-back strategy sessions. If you've ever used or heard of Zins, those little pouches that took the nicotine industry by storm, TRGT's focus pouches use the same convenient delivery method, without all the junk. They load up their pouches with functional ingredients designed to support clean, focus, and sustained energy so that you can lock in without the crash out. And the focus pouch is just the start. TRGT has a full system including hydration, recovery, and sleep formulas so that you can maximize your entire day, not just your work day. Our team is hooked, and we think you will be too. If you want to perform smarter, head to taketrgt.com.
Can you share maybe some of the challenges that you guys have had with the brand so far, about half a year into launch, and maybe some of the things that are different this time around where essentially you built a product and a brand around a person versus around a retailer, which is really different from your prior strategy.
Yep.
And going to market e-commerce at the same time, those two differences, what have you learned and what challenges have there been?
Yeah, there hasn't been a dull day, that's for sure. And one of the big things we learned about is just how big the category is.
Yes.
I don't think we realized that from the start. Like, I think we knew it was a big category, but how big, I still don't think we know. And when we were thinking about getting into this business, we actually spent some time in Sweden and Denmark where like the white pouch technology really originated. And they're 5 to 7 years ahead of where the United States is at, both from a nicotine and also a non-nicotine pouch standpoint. And they basically have full-blown liquor stores that are just pouches.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes. So it's truly incredible. And the feedback that we got from over there is like, hey, like the U.S., this is coming to the U.S. And so that kind of increased a little bit the sense of urgency. Is like, okay, hey, we know we have a good idea, but how do we move it? And then you mentioned just Vince and the ownership structure. I think Vince has done such a fantastic job. I think you see these brands that have brand ambassadors, and those are great, and they provide a lot of value. Vince as a brand owner and Lee Hodges now as a brand owner, owners in the brand have done such a great job just opening up doors through their network, whether that be, hey, people that they see on the PGA Tour just handing the product out to other people in their just network that they come across on a daily basis. And the big thing for us is, like you said, this was just a concept really just a year ago. And to be able to take it, it's moved so much faster than I think we could have imagined it. And so making sure all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed is something that's so important. And I think there's been a lot of late nights and a lot of tests, and just to make sure that every single part of the process was buttoned up. And there's obviously, I think the launching e-com along with retail has been really successful. I think they work in separate channels, but they also work together at the same time. And it goes back to that omni-channel comment. And I think we're seeing it in our sales today is, hey, we've opened up some retail doors, but those customers, they're not always going to buy through a retailer. They might not go back to that store to buy the product. They might just look for it online, and vice versa. They might see the product online and then they come across it in the store. So to be able to have those launches happen in unison and lockstep has been really exciting. And I think, like I said, I think we're just in this first phase. We're really excited about the growth of the brand. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't think we know how big this category can be. Right. It's big, and it's a little bit different than a lot of our other brands because it's so consumable.
And the velocity in retail has been far
exceeded expectations. Yes. Yeah. Our traditional business is, hey, if an item sells a couple of units per store per week, that's really good velocity. This velocity is 10 to 20 times that. And so that also is something that we've had to focus on is like, hey, we've got to win a customer over. And if we win them over once, they're going to come back.
Yep.
And I think we're seeing that onto the direct-to-consumer side. I don't think we could have ever imagined the repeat customer purchase was going to be as high as it is. And it's been an interesting journey, and it's opened up a new channel into more convenient stuff on the retail side of the business that we haven't traditionally lived in before.
Definitely. So, I think that we've certainly learned a lot from the brand as well. Yeah. I think that we've been able to get really tight on our key metrics. We have a really strong average order value. You mentioned customer retention, customer lifetime value is really strong. We're making money with an efficient CAC, even on the first sale. And we've had to figure out, I think, a key challenge, a lesson, something that we're all valuing by the day is level of speed and teeth when it comes to key moments and opportunities. Without getting into too many details, the brand really early on, in the couple of months that we were live, had a viral moment that we weren't expecting. And it wasn't fabricated, which most viral moments are. It was completely genuine and kind of struck us for a loop. And within 24 hours, our sales skyrocketed. Our inventory was wiped out. And it was so early on into the journey. And from a positive perspective, we were able to acquire a ton of customers for free. And we were able to learn really quickly which flavors people gravitated towards or which functions. We were able to, on our end, quickly stand up new functions and features on the website to capitalize on the buzz. So we launched subscriptions the day that the boom happened, and we hadn't planned to launch them for a month or two so that we could capture some of that demand. So I think the team was really agile with some of those decisions, but also looking back, sometimes we're like, did we capitalize on the buzz enough? So I think that was a unique moment for both teams to kind of say, hey, when shit hits the fan in a good way, how do we react? And I think that the brand will continue to see remnants of that viral moment. And it's hard to capitalize on something like that when it's flying in front of your eyes in real time.
Well, it just goes to our conversation earlier about being partners and things. There were some late nights, and not even just in that moment, but through the entire of launch. I talked about the window of opportunity only being open for so long, and I think that's the nice thing about our partnership and our relationship is like, hey, we both understand that we have to capitalize on some of this stuff now, and to be able to do that quickly, but also it was fast, but at the same time it was calculated.
Yeah.
And I think that was what kind of the unique thing about our relationship has been is, hey, we can sit down and let's get a bunch of people in a room real quick and talk about how do we want to go to market with this.
Yes.
And then the nice thing is we have the decision makers sitting in the room to say, okay, here's how we feel, let's go execute it. And the team's ability then to go out and execute it in a fast manner is unbelievable. And our marketing team and your marketing team and the way they've worked together is just incredible. They don't get enough credit.
Totally.
I don't give them enough credit in the office every single day for what they do.
I have a feeling you do.
Yeah, no, I don't. But really, they've taken on a new brand, a new category, and really just sunk their teeth into it. And it's been so refreshing. And it's not just with TRGT. That's the other thing is like this team is also balancing 6 other brands that are making incredible progress.
And you're not an agency like us where our job is to balance 60 brands. It's from the outside. You guys are cooking up these businesses from the inside.
Yeah.
You're owning all of these brands. I think that's so unique and so special.
Well, and it's a full system approach too, because you have some big spikes in sales like we talked about, and all of a sudden our operations team's like, okay, how do we get all these orders out the door in a 24-hour period, and to make sure that we're still meeting the customer demand? How do we get more supply back in the supply chain to react to things like this? It's just like, I've said it once and I'll say it probably 3 more times while we're talking. Like, we're just so blessed to be surrounded by the team and the people. And similar to the way our relationships work, I feel like the culture at Chagrinovations is we're kind of a family. We win together, we lose together. Yeah. And there's been certain situations that we've seen things happen and things outside of people's responsibility, but they say, hey, something's going on big in marketing today. How can I help? I'm an operations person, but give me a 30-second rundown and help me understand what you're doing, and I'll be there to help. And I think that's kind of the cool thing about our team, and I think that's been the reason why we've been able to continue to grow and have been able to take a brand from a concept to retail shelves in less than 9 months, basically.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, just nuts.
Just have to add on that, and then we can shift gears a little bit. A couple perspectives from my end. One, it's hard to realize it in the moment, but when we look at all of the things that have been achieved so far, you guys have made manufacturing adjustments and figured out what the best operation looks like within this short time window. Not even 9 months. You've changed the manufacturing processes. We've launched new products. We've launched new flavors. We've reacted to the market. We've improved the formulation. We've tested a lot of different channels. You guys have flown to meetings and driven through the night to make it on time for a next day meeting with us. We've had a lot of those stakeholder roundtables. There's been a ton of kind candor, as we call it, where we're able to have open, honest conversations, but they're based in reality and data and facts. And I feel like you guys have also looked to us to say, like, hey, we're not the experts, but we want to learn. We don't just want to receive a report. We want to understand, which I think is so special. Have to also shout out Ben just for, like, again, he's so plugged in, and to us, it feels like TRGT is the only brand he's worried about, but we know he's worried about many brands. So yeah, kudos, hat tip. So much has been achieved, but this brand is in the infancy stages, baby. So we have a long runway to go, lots of grind, but so much opportunity.
You hit the nail right on the head. It's Ben, but also the rest of the team too. With Ellie, Chloe, McKenna, just the work that they do on a daily basis to execute this stuff. It's so impressive. And then Alex and Mary Kate on the operations side. I think, and that's the interesting thing, I think the marketing piece and the operations piece are a lot closer tied together than most people think. Hey, a campaign going out without the ability to execute it operationally is no good. And the amount of times that I see them in each other's offices saying, hey, here's an idea. How do we go about executing this? And just the collaboration from that standpoint has just been absolutely fantastic.
That's a perfect transition to our last topic, which is your leadership. And I know you're a humble leader. I've had a lot of conversations with Dan, your CEO, just about who you are as a person and how critical that's been to the fabric of the organization since you started. And I know you don't like to talk about yourself and your approach, but can you give us a little bit of a glimpse into your style, how you think that's impacted the culture, and maybe how it's evolved over time?
Yeah, I appreciate Dan saying that because he's one of the best leaders I've been surrounded by. And I can't even begin to talk about how much I've learned from him. And to be honest with you, I think I don't know if I could even summarize my style all in one point in time. I think the one thing I'll say is I think I've picked up on just things throughout my life, and starting from a very early phase with my parents. My dad was a small business owner and found a way to manage. His priorities were his faith is number one, his family's number two, and his work's number three. And I think he did such a good job of being great at all of those. And I think the people think, oh, if to be good at this, you have to only focus on that. And so to be able to pick that up from him, and really how him and my mom kind of worked as a team, and she supported him in a lot of his success is because of some of the stuff she did. So in an early phase, I picked up on some of those skills and learned from him, and then go to high school and college and been lucky enough to play sports my entire life and learn from great coaches and pick up on different leadership and styles and things that I liked. And then I was incredibly blessed out of school to go get a great job and work for a great organization in Hinkle. And between Mike Tembrink and Megan Rippey, two of the best leaders for a 22-year-old coming out of school who knew nothing. I remember a situation today, still today, there was just so much opportunity that they gave us as a young person. Yeah. And one of the big things, part of their leadership style was, hey, we're going to put you out there to go learn on your own. And we're going to make sure you don't make a big mistake, but we're going to put you out in front of the customer. I remember today a meeting that we had with Lowe's, and there's a big retailer in Canada called Rona. And Megan, my boss, was on maternity leave, and our VP of marketing was in another meeting. And so Ben actually and I went up there.
I didn't realize you worked together at Hinkle.
So we worked together at Hinkle, and we went up there with the president and the VP of sales. And it's Ben and I was probably 23 years old at the time.
Wow.
And they kind of just let us handle the conversation. And they were there to handle the big stuff. But I just remember thinking they could have done a better job than me. There's no doubt about it. But as a part of my development, they were like, hey, you take this, you drive this. And if you need to lean back on us, we're standing here behind you. We'll support you. And I thought that was just very cool. And I can honestly say I don't think I'd be where I'm at today if I didn't learn from great people like that. And then you move on to Chagrinovations, and I thought I knew a lot more than I did when I got here. And so lucky, we actually started, our first office was in the Idea Stream office. So it was Anthony Meglin and I, another fellow Blue Streak, just figuring it out. And just so lucky to learn from the leaders of that Idea Stream business and overhear conversations and to say, hey, I've got a problem. How can I help figure this out, or how can I learn from this? And it's to kind of sum that up, I think the leadership style has kind of developed over time, and it's been, frankly, from just being blessed from being surrounded by great leaders my entire life, and trying and hoping that I can take bits and pieces from everybody. And that's one thing we talk a lot about, is everyone's got their own unique style. Yeah. And to try to mimic one person exactly, you can't. And you're your own individual person. But I've been able to take bits and pieces of things through my life and have been able to try to use those in the workplace. So that was a long-winded answer of kind of where the style came from. But I'm sure it's probably unique. You could ask the team probably at a separate time. I'm sure they'll have a different update, but I can summarize it by saying I've been surrounded by good leaders and try to emulate pieces of their leadership style in what I do.
I think that's a really great story, and I don't think it's uncommon in a way. It's unique, right? Each leader is so different, but I do think that a common thread I always hear, and I talk to CEOs all day long, and your CEO speaks of you in a way that I don't hear most CEOs speak about one of their partners. So I think that's really special. But most people say that there were early people, whether it was a parent or it was not a parent, a teacher, a professor, or a coach, or an early position in a career, someone who mentored you. There's always somebody who kind of lights the fire. So it's cool that you had several people who did that. Is it safe to assume the reason you moved on from Hinkle and took the leap to Chagrinovations because you wanted to have more leadership and ownership? Why'd you move from such a large organization to something a little bit scrappier? It's
a great question. And sometimes I still think, what was I even thinking? Things were really good. Yeah. And I think I've always just wanted to run my own business and be a part of a business that I could help start and take from scratch. And to be honest, I didn't expect this opportunity to come up. I'm very thankful that the board and Tony and Curtis at Chagrinovations were like, hey, we want you to come in and take this chance. But it was a once in a lifetime opportunity to be able to build brands from the ground up. And I was young and I've learned a lot for sure, but it's been an incredible ride and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
I love that. What was your first role at Chagrinovations?
That was my first role. It was one of 3 people in the entire company. So we did a little bit of everything.
Wow.
I think my title's changed a lot over the years, but it's really just been like, I always say, you can call me the chief janitor. And it's just a title at the end of the day. I think that's the unique thing is people wear so many hats within a company. So I think it was like, I don't know, director of sales and marketing or something like that. And that kind of goes to another point too, in terms of leadership. I just was thinking about this is surrounding yourself with good people. My grandfather was a coach in college, wrestling and football. And he had a saying, he goes, if you want to be an A person, you hire A people because B people try to hire C people because they're afraid of getting passed up. And so that's always stuck with me is, hey, if I want to be an A person and I don't know if I'm there yet, but that's what I'm striving for, then I want to surround myself with other A people. And I think growing from the Idea Stream office back in 2020 to where we're at today, I can confidently say there are a lot of A people in our organization that are better than me in a lot of different phases. And I think the other unique thing too that I've been able to learn from Dan and Tony is I think if anyone knows them, they're totally different in their styles.
Yeah.
They're 2 totally different people. But one of the unique things I've learned from them is they know what their strengths are and they know what their weaknesses are. And I think as a leader, being observant enough to understand, hey, here's what I'm good at and here's what I'm not good at. And turning over, and as leaders, we get into strong conversations often about what should we do. And if it's not an area of expertise or not a strength of mine, I need to turn and lean on the people that it is. And so I think that's been something really cool to see over the years develop. Starting from there is building out that organization of all these strong people and saying, hey, I don't have to be the person that does everything.
Best, yes.
And it's okay to be able to say, hey, Joey, you can go and just take it and run with it. And Ben, go do this, or Kristen, do that. And I've been so lucky to be surrounded by people that can go do that and that I learn from every single day too.
I couldn't say it better. And I feel a lot of connection to your story and parallels with our leadership team and the differences. And we've talked about that openly. Some people are a little more aggressive. Some people are a little more reserved. And those come with pros and cons. And I think you guys balance it well. I want to round out with a little bit of a different question on leadership. So for me personally, I feel like I have both learned the most, but also mentored others the most by sharing mistakes.
Of course.
And everything you've shared so far, I think that it sounds like that meeting at Henkel where they trusted you guys and they stood behind you went really well, right? It didn't end in a sob story.
No.
Were there any mistakes you made or bumps in the road that were pivotal in everything that you just described?
Every single day, there's been a mistake that's been made. It's been a crazy environment, really, in the world since 2020. We've had a lot of unforeseen circumstances we've had to navigate. When you think about a global pandemic, you think about tariff rates coming out of nowhere, container rates in shipping and transportation have gone up drastically. There's just been so much learning and a lot of mistakes along the way. Probably too many to even, you probably need a separate podcast if you want to talk about mistakes.
The Mistake Show.
Yeah, the Mistake Show. That'll be a good one. I'm sure there'll be some people that would love to listen to that. But honestly, Tony always says this. He goes, make mistakes and learn from them and just don't make the mistake that puts us out of business. And so that's what we've empowered our team with is like, it's okay to make mistakes and you're going to get pushed out of your comfort zone and it's okay. And you have people here to support you along the way. And we'll make sure, and that's been one of the biggest blessings of Dan and Tony is like, hey, we've got a young, hungry, energized team. And they kind of serve as the guardrails. Of like, hey, you're leaning a little too far this way. Let's knock you back in. And you learn from experiencing things and seeing things. And until you've been in the fire, you don't really understand. And so that's been one of the biggest things is, yes, we've made thousands of mistakes and we've learned a lot from them. And the goal is to try to learn from others' mistakes before you make them yourself. But if you're going to make them, just don't make the same mistake again and leverage that for the growth of the business.
Something that can't be replaced with AI.
No, that is true.
The marriage of young, hungry talent with experienced, seasoned folks and making mistakes, it just can't be replicated.
I can't believe I haven't talked about AI yet.
I know.
Pretty impressive. Am I the longest one who hasn't brought up AI yet?
I think it's refreshing sometimes. It can really dominate the conversation. As we round out your leadership style, everything that Chagrinovations has accomplished, what you've accomplished in your relatively early career. Are you 30? We're
30.
the same age, right?
Yep.
I'm not 30 yet, so you're older than me. But a couple weeks. You've accomplished so much. The organization has accomplished so much. You guys are just getting started. You have so much momentum. So I thought it would be the perfect time to today reveal something that is a huge accomplishment for Chagrinovations, if you'd like to do the honors.
Yeah, so very exciting, and this is just a true representation of our team. But for the second consecutive year, Chagrinovations has been named to the Inc. 5000 list for the fastest grown privately held companies, which is just an incredible honor for our team. I more than anything, it just the work that has gone in, that just doesn't happen from complacency and just by accident. And just couldn't be more proud of our team. That award is 100% their doing. And I'm just so happy to kind of share in that with them.
Cue the confetti. Woo woo. Shout out Chagrinovations. Such a huge accomplishment, truly. And you guys deserve it. I know that the world will be seeing more from Chagrinovations, even if they don't realize that you're behind some of these leading brands. Sometimes the team behind it all doesn't see the credit, but I know you guys feel it in the soul. You guys are such an awesome team. It wouldn't be a Marketing Moves if we didn't round out with some rapid fire. So try to answer these in a couple seconds, okay?
Okay, can do that.
All right, we're going to hit it hard. First up, favorite consumer brand outside of your portfolio?
Ooh, that's a good question. There's a lot of them. I would have to go with Dude Wipes. I just think their marketing strategy and what they've been able to do with a butt wipe is really incredible. And just the creativity that goes into their marketing and just to see what they've built from nothing. They've built an entire category basically overnight. It's been very fun to watch along the way.
Marketing magic. I will not confirm or deny if there are Dude Wipe butt wipes next to the toilet in my master bathroom. One trend in consumer products you think is overhyped?
One trend that's overhyped. Oh, I think just a non-omni-channel approach. I think there's so many companies that think they can go out there and build a brand just through one channel. And I don't think in today's industry that's possible. I hear it a lot of, I can build this business on just one platform. But in my mind, a true brand can be found anywhere, online, on Amazon, at a local retail store. So I think the brands that think they can grow in just one channel is tough.
Smart. You didn't say TikTok dances.
Yes.
Profound answer.
Yes.
If you could only track one business metric every Monday morning, what would it be?
Cash. I think in a small business, you could be profitable and not cash flow positive, and you can go out of business. So I think having cash in the bank is the lifeline to a small business.
Cash is king, baby.
That's right.
Favorite Cleveland sports team?
Unfortunately, the Browns.
Football guy.
Forever and always will be.
Thank you so much for joining us, Derek.
Thank you for having me.
Listeners, I think there's so much packed into this episode about scaling brands, leadership, ops versus marketing, teams, unique categories. We fit a lot of it in, so thank you for coming. And I hope that we can share the Inc. 5000 news with a bunch of positive light after this episode.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Cool.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Now it's time to start making moves. Head to vividfront.com/marketing moves for exclusive marketing materials. Every episode, we add more of our greatest insider secrets to help you move towards success. See you next time.